The series begins with an explanation of the kingdom's history and the legendary hero's influence before cutting to Minor Luke and Ferris Eris searching in Alpha for artifacts related to the legendary heroes. However, before we dive into that, let's talk about Alpha Stigma. Alpha Stigma, which can also be known as the Cursed Eyes, gives users the ability to mimic and learn any sort of magic that is being performed in front of them or against them. However, they're also called Cursed Eyes due to the fact that people who possess this power are known only to bring destruction and demise to the whole world. During the Roland-Nelfa War, some Nelfa guards attack them because they believe they are Roland spies. They disarm the guards and enter a structure resembling a tomb in search of artifacts. Meanwhile, King Scion Astel's political life continues in his Roland palace. Biofokal, a commoner, attacks him after mistaking him for the lord who kidnapped his sister. Scion reunites Fuel with his younger sister, Elselena, and hires the grateful young man as his personal assistant. In Nelfa, Reiner and Ferris meet Milk Milan, a young girl who fell in love with Reiner as a child of the orphanage and is now the head of a Roland taboo hunter squad. Milk misidentifies the two as illegal refugees, but just as she attempts to stop their escape, the building collapses. Milk is rescued by another member of her taboo breaker squad, while Reiner and Ferris go outside to discover the source of the disruption is a massive creature, presumably summoned by a hero relic. Ferris summons the power of a possible hero relic she discovered while in the complex. When she's unable to defeat the creature, we see a brief flashback through Sion's eyes, recalling his days with Reiner at the military academy and his promise to become king and change the world. Sion has conflicting memories of being bullied as a child and his mother telling him in bed how proud and joyful she is of him. Sion's existence as the bastard son of a noble with a low-class lady apparently offends the nobles who are acting like bullies. He notices his mother's decaying remains in a floral arrangement as a gift for the young Sion, who arrives with his blood-soaked puppy inside. During the magic training session at military school, Reiner appears to be a waste of space. Sion Astal invites Kiefer Knowles to join his combat group due to her exceptional abilities. After acknowledging Reiner's role as the Alpha Stigma bearer, he suggests that he join as well. But Sion also struggles with the responsibility of foiling assassination plots and exposing Istanbul's related schemes. Sion hires Ferris to look for the person responsible for these events after witnessing her ability to find out their names. As Sion leads his team to Istanbul, they're unaware that 50 magic knights of Istanbul await them. While Sion is dying, Ferris and Iris arrest the Honorable Lord Brophos and torture him until he tells them that he's headed into a trap set by 50 magic knights from Istanbul who are waiting on the Roxanne Plains battlefield. Everyone is upbeat and confident since Sion and his squadron have been deployed to these plains with proof that they are a non-combat area. The Istanbul spy has been hidden among Sion supporters, and Lord Brophos also tells the Eris sisters that the spy will soon turn on Sion. At the end of the last episode, the guy who provided the Eris siblings with vital information about Sion was killed by Lucille. To prevent Iris from witnessing the beheaded head of the noble in her brother's hand, which Lucille feels will spoil Iris, Ferris covers her mouth and knocks her asleep. Then Lucille prevents Ferris from rushing to Sion's aid once more by stating that Sion must survive and repel the attack of the 50 magicians from Istanbul in order to succeed in becoming the king of Roland. And then Lucille disappears. Reiner's urged by his friends to cheer up Kiefer, but he only manages to relax with her and take a nap. Kiefer then takes the opportunity to ask him to escape with her. She should quit making jokes. Reiner chuckles and tells her. She stands up and casts an Istanbul spell into the air after Kiefer responds that he is correct, it was all in jest. She had meant to protect him. Kiefer's spell, as we later realize, was a signal to the Magic Knights waiting in the adjacent field. With the remaining survivors, Reiner and the Scion flee to the forest. Reiner and Sion hold the Knights back, and Sion urges him to use a certain power, but Reiner says that he has not used it in 7 years, so it's unstable for him. In an effort to drive Reiner insane, who carries the Alpha Stigma, they seize him and demonstrate how they slaughtered everyone else and captured Kiefer and Sion. In an effort to provoke Reiner further after his first resistance, they beat up Sion and make threats to Kiefer in front of him. Reiner is broken by the treatment of his closest friends and loses control. He destroys everything in his path, even the knights, using his heightened might. A group of Roland knights soon finds them, and to the chagrin of the nobles, Sion is returned to Roland as a hero, while Reiner is sent to torture because he's an Alpha Stigma monster. The monarch will grant Reiner one wish, it is said. As a result, he asks for Kiefer to be released, and he gets his wish. She kisses him, reassuring him that he is unquestionably not a monster, and says she fell in love with him, not because of his lack of motivation, allowed her to let her guard down, but rather because of his generosity and strength. As Reiner leads Kiefer to freedom the following day, Sion visits Reiner in prison and offers to assist him in escaping, but Reiner declines, telling Sion that it would be too much trouble and that he would prefer to stay in prison with its free roof, 3 daily meals, and unlimited afternoon naps. A bad response would result in Sion's demise as Lucille Eris, Ferris's brother, summons him to test his aptitude as king. For 2 years, Reiner studiously passes the time in prison by reading a number of documents. Despite the fact that Reiner is being executed in the town under Ferris's protection, the two test each other's fortitude in combat. Reiner's studies while he was imprisoned impressed the new king, who just so happens to be Sion, who then tasked Reiner and Ferris with finding the hero's relics. Reiner and Ferris arrive in Nelfa and are exploring the town's library's collection of hero artifacts when they come across Tael Nelfi. In the meantime, unrest in Roland intensifies, culminating in the murder of Fiol Volkalm, a commoner who served as the king's secretary and was revealed during a royal feast. Reiner encounters Ferris's sister, Iris Eris, who considers herself to be Sion's only point of contact, while Reiner and Ferris are dining at Tael's home. As soon as Miran Frod shows up, he offers to help Sion by any means required, including such desperate ones. In Nelfa, where there might be another assassination at the following royal feast, Sion brings Frod along as a new helper. It's requested of Reiner and Ferris to keep watch outside the manor. The two are perceived as possible threats by Frod, who engages them in combat by utilizing his sorcery against their magic, inflicting damage on Ferris. Frod has the power to use shadow magic because of the ring he wears, which was a legacy. After declaring that he will keep Tael alive for the time being, Frod departs. The following morning, Reiner and Ferris depart from Tael's home to carry on their hunt for the hero artifacts. Reiner and Ferris discover only a box of documents related to tax evasion at the Nutwood Castle. At first, Sui Orla and Ku Orla both thought the box contained treasure, but now they're both shocked. Milk makes an attempt to pursue Reiner away from Ferris when she is in a forest, but she's quickly outmatched and captured. Reiner uses a blade that he discovers as a hero relic that is buried underground to keep the Nefla army from seizing Milk. The sword changes into a dragon in the midst of the pandemonium and chases the army into the countryside. Luke Stockard explains to Milk the reason she became the squad leader when she is on the verge of giving up on performing her task. The last thing Sion intended was for Farad to incite a mutiny between Roland and Istanbul. In spite of the harsh realities of a political life, Noah N hopes for peace between the two kingdoms. As his army advances on the main fortress, Clow Klom leads it into battle against the adversaries. Nevertheless, defying the original instruction, Froud launches a surprise assault within the fortress. When Clow shields Noah from an attack, she realizes Froud is the one orchestrating this uprising. Although Sion advised them not to travel inside the forest, Reiner and Ferris are unaware of this and believe they should capture the dragon that was recently set free. The duo, Sui and Ku, who are in control of the sword hero artifact that was abandoned, are encountered by the two when they are out on the streets. In the midst of a heated argument, Sui causes Reiner to release the lethal Alpha Stigma, but Sui misjudges the extent of his fabled ability. Ferris, who is forced to confront the destructive power of the Alpha Stigma while seeing Reiner's horrific metamorphosis, is able to soothe Reiner by reassuring him of his senses. Sion is reading Reiner's report about Sui and Ku in Roland when he's stopped by Elsina, whom he briefly mistakes as Viole, Kaun, and Claw. They reprimand him for working too hard and even make the joke about waking up Viole to put his majesty in her place. When Lady Noah N enters the room, she's enthralled by the four characters' lovely chemistry. Imperial Stole from the north is radically enlarging its territory. The Minoris continent's equilibrium has started to shatter as a result, bringing war closer than ever. The Roland Empire must quickly be united, which results in the removal of nobility in order to be ready for such a situation. Late at night, Clow and Noah spend their final minutes dating at the Roland Empire reception hall. Noah doesn't mind that Clow arrived late, but he seemed bothered by it. In response to Noah's statement that she doesn't mind, Clow says he's aware that women may be demanding in these situations. He gets the reassurance that she had a great night and that she was especially glad to have shared the moment with him under the stars. When Clow departs and she enters the manor, she's horrified to see bodies, blood, hooded men, and captives. However, she quickly understands that she must not scream for the sake of the hostages, and her attackers immediately start stripping her of her clothing. While driving his carriage, Clow hears Noah pleading for him and dashes back to her rescue. He managed to reach the new damsel just in time to prevent any significant harm from being done to her at the price of a knife wound to his shoulder. Before being murdered by Clow, the aggressors sing the incantation of Izuchi. Reiner and Ferris come across the young girl Cuckoo while traveling to Runa. She begs them to save her childhood friend Arua, who is said to be an Alpha Stigma bearer and is just about to suffer a terrible fate. The young girl tells Ferris and Reiner that because of excessive taxes in her communities, soldiers once showed up and killed her parents and attempted to kill her as well. However, with a fiery glare in his eyes, her companion Arua utilized magic for the first time in his life to save her. He was demonized by the locals and used as a test subject by the troops. While Reiner waits in uncertainty, Ferris makes an instant plan to come to his aid. Ferris and Reiner witness a terrain surrounded by rocks and a forest in the Runa Empire frontier where the Magic Knights of Runa can conduct experiments on the Alpha Stigma child without running the risk of any form of loss. To increase the fidelity of his allies, Scion elevates a number of supporting nobility. Raphael Miller permits Milk to keep her position as captain despite the fact that she was unable to complete her assignment. By tutoring his parents, the Magic Knights of Runa attempt to cause Arua to experience the Alpha Stigma. Reiner becomes enraged by this and attacks the group, which Ferris defends. After seeing his mother and father dead, Arua awakens the Alpha Stigma, but Reiner is able to quickly put him to sleep. Reiner wonders why he was endowed with such a horrible talent at birth. Roland is still the target of treason. Rich and highly sought after by other nobles, Fraud throws a banquet at his house to entice those plotting against Scion. To ensure no one gets in the king's way, he murders every diner. However, Lear Orla, who uses the ring he wears to cast lightning magic, is the opponent Fraud faces next. Fraud is grudgingly saved by Clow from the blue flames that Lear's unleashed crystal emits. Runa is coerced by Sui and Ku to join the Gastark army. After defeating a band of magic knights, Reiner and Ferris take Arua with them as they make their way back to Regent. 4 years ago, Kiefer's younger sister was forced to become a military double agent after Kiefer's older sister was assassinated and taken by the Magic Knights of Roland. Rifal Edia, who claims to be waging warfare to eventually put an end to the conflict against Gastark, utilizes aggressive invasion methods when Kiefer rescues 2 helpless children while engaged in battle with Stoll. He does this by demanding his left eye in exchange for a long sword through a relic. Sui and Ku chase down Reiner and Ferris, starting a new conflict over their desire to get Arua back because of his special talent. Reiner and Ferris now travel to a manor where Sui and Ku have kidnapped Cuckoo, bringing Arua along for the ride. The thought of deploying the Alpha Stigma as a weapon of war is something Reiner is opposed to. Fraud unexpectedly intervenes as Cuckoo is about to lose his life, but Reiner lets Sui and Ku go away. Fraud concludes by suggesting that the Alpha Stigma might actually be a benefit rather than a curse. To maintain international harmony, Scion must alter the structure of his empire. Reiner and Ferris wind up on the shore of Roland after getting lost at sea and briefly encountering Luke and Milk. Reiner and Ferris set off in an unsuccessful attempt to assassinate the monarch who is the source of all their problems. In a flashback, he witnesses the 4-year-old Ferris being rejected for further training after being subjected to years of abuse by her parents in the form of brutal training. She will only continue to use the family name to name a child who will be fathered by her own father. Lucille kills their parents in order to protect Ferris. Scion offers to take Reiner with them to Istanbul, but Reiner denies the invitation. He notices a terrible vibe emanating from the family dojo while paying Arua and Cuckoo a visit at the heiress home. There, Reiner, who is worried about Ferris, runs into Lucille, who starts a small argument. Reiner is cautioned by Lucille to avoid interacting with Ferris should he perish. Later, Milk brings Reiner an invitation to her birthday party, which would be held the following day. Unbeknownst to her, Luke Stockard swapped Scion's request for a copy of a writ to the pursuit squadron, instructing them to execute Reiner if he loses control or is discovered to be acting against Roland. Reiner and Milk are both listed as missing, which sparks questions. To find a perpetrated Alpha Stigma bearer in Istanbul, Scion dispatches a task squad under the command of Clow. Rifal interrupts Kefir as she's starting her research on the Lino Doe in Gasark by inviting her to tea. Clow's arm is severed by Tyr Rimable, who readily possesses the ability to consume flesh and absorb magic, and the majority of the task force is wiped out. Clow is transported from the area of combat so he can receive medical attention for his injuries. Luke uses threat magic to stop Proud from attacking after discovering that Milk has been taken prisoner. Eslina Folkal informs Ferris that Reiner has been seen somewhere in Istanbul. When she finds him in an inn, she destroys the location out of rage and wonders what Lucille said to him to make him leave town in such a hurry. Soon after, Scion commands the soldiers to launch an arrow attack on Tyr. Tyr manages to overcome both of them. Scion puts an end to the assault once Reiner and Ferris have safely left the inn. To Ferris' dismay and Scion's understanding, Tyr gives Reiner a way out of a life of suffering. Scion and Ferris think about their interactions with Reiner. Reiner's written bio is provided to Clow by Kalni Kaiwal, who also explains how and why Reiner was chosen to undergo military academy training. Reiner travels with Tyr to a shelter for youngsters who have the Lino Doe. Tyr pledges vengeance on the cruel people that kill their people. Reiner is reminded that despite his appearance as a horrible creature, he's actually a nice person. He continues to wonder, nevertheless, why people like him are born. Later, Luke, the assassin, ordered to kill Reiner, runs into him. Near the hiding place, Reiner and Luke are engaged in a life-or-death struggle when Ferris steps in. Lear, who has been pursuing Tyr, seizes the chance to attack the refugees camped up in the hiding place. When one of the immigrants is slain, an enraged Reiner assaults Lear with all of his might, but Ferris intervenes once more. Reiner is able to resist Lear's strong desire as he uses a crystallized eye to coerce Reiner into activating the Alpha Stigma. When Luke and Reiner team up, Lear departs and Tyr transports the evacuees to safety. Luke departs as Lear withdraws. Reiner consents to go back to Roland with Ferris, but only on the condition that she would be the one to kill him if he were to lose control of the Alpha Sigma. Returning to Roland, Reiner and Ferris find Roland confined in Scion's office with a mountain of paperwork that needs to be filed. When Milk finally breaks free from Fraud's enchantment, she discovers that her beloved parents had been slain. Reiner worries a lot that Scion is working too hard. Later, Fraud confronts Scion and asks him why Reiner is still alive. Scion strikes back by using all of his strength. Reiner is put under a sedative in the garden by Lyaral Liatolu, who introduces himself as Reiner's father, but he flees with the body when Lucille shows up. When Ferris locates Lyaral, he's unable to protect Reiner from this enigmatic dude. Reiner is imprisoned in an odd inner world and is about to face the Alpha until Iluna Liatolu, who is purported to be his mother, momentarily dissolves the inner world through emergence and instructs him to pass through a wide door. She does this just before the Alpha eats her. He wakes up in bed with his lifelong friend abruptly and unexpectedly. Scion is led by Lucille into a chamber where he must face his alter ego. Fearing that Scion has already made plans to assassinate Reiner, Rafal frees Kiefer from her cage and instructs her to bring Reiner to him. For Scion's birthday celebration, Reiner works his fingers to the bone. He runs into Milk and remembers that she sent him an invitation to her party a few days earlier when he gets the chance to leave the office. Despite the fact that it might take him 6 months to complete, Clow has an idea how to prepare fireworks for the approaching festival. Even Milk has a birthday, so when the celebration gets going at night, fireworks shoot into the sky. Reiner and Scion contemplate on how they see the world changing as the party winds down, but the moment of reflection quickly devolves into a heated argument. Scion has completely lost his mind now and thinks that Reiner will go to hell, and is coming dangerously close to killing Reiner with every passing second. Slowly and gradually, the spirit of the heroic madman starts to consume him until it devours him whole. In an effort to stop Scion from killing Reiner for nothing more than his own self-publishing and self-serving pain, the Luna emerges from within Reiner's body. The lonely demon spirit fights back against Scion. Reiner is the descendant of the lonely demon, who was originally the one demon to vanquish the heroic madman. Scion, on the other hand, is stuck in confiding in the spirit of the heroic madman, which makes Scion feel more and more hesitant to kill Reiner. Scion even goes as far out into science to create the undead, but he's unable to kill his pal Reiner in the end when it mattered most. After Iluna vanishes, Lucille appears suddenly nearby and puts Reiner right to sleep. Reiner wakes up in a prison. However, before he has a moment of respite to figure out what is going on, Ferris comes out of nowhere and attempts Reiner in nearly escaping danger when he finds himself in prison. Scion has now gone completely mad and has used forbidden sciences and magic to create armies of undead and slaughter all of Alpha's citizens. The people of Roland now support him, meaning that Scion and his whole country have lost their way and have become a perverted version of themselves, prone to anger and a quick judgment, destroying anyone that is different to them. The first season of the series ends with 3 armies being created: the Rebels, Rolands, and of course, the Devils. Reiner swears to protect his companions from the suffering he faces while traveling a perverse route in pursuit of his desire. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.
And I'm pretty sure that you are.